Good morning. Surprise. Here I am, as usual, with no warning. This morning, partly because of the conversation we had yesterday, but also because of something I observed this morning, I am going to share the most valuable lesson I've learned about animation. So, I see a truck driving around my neighborhood. And the truck comes out, goes in one direction, goes around the turn, comes back an eighth of a mile, loops around again, and then passes by our house. So he took the windiest path possible. And in the back of the truck was a box. And the box had tape on it. And I said to Valerie, "Isn't that Amazon tape?" She said, yeah, it's Amazon tape. I said, the environmentalists should pass a law. And the law should be that it's illegal to receive a box from Amazon and then go transport it somewhere. What a waste of fuel. Of course, I was joking. I'm a bit of an environmentalist myself. And then I said, well, wait a second. We're going to let this animation loop a couple times and see how it's going. I said, still joking around. I'm like, it kind of calls to mind solutions to problems that look like solutions, but it turns out aren't solutions at all. So I continued the joke to say, imagine this scenario where, because of a well-meaning intent to reduce fuel emissions, you say, okay, in our community, Amazon has to, instead of driving all over the place dropping stuff off, has to have a single drop point in the town. And obviously, the kind of joke is that actually sounds like kind of a good idea at first blush, but then you realize, well, of course, everybody's got to get in their vehicle to go to the drop-off point, and the aggregate result is you use just as much fuel as if you had not had the drop-off point. In fact, it could be worse. Well, after joking around about this a bit, I said to myself, well, actually I said out loud, wait a second. How is that any different from shortchanging the work I'm doing on a scene in order ostensibly to save time, only to have to later go back and punch the shot up? Improve it. It's no different. So, unlike most YouTubers who say, as I said in the title, this is going to be the most valuable lesson I've learned, it actually is. In the last 2 years, I have gotten better at drawing. And I think my discernment about, what's working, what's not working, what's good, what's bad, is better than it used to be. But it's not that much better. It's only a little bit better. Most of the improvement, and it has been an improvement for sure, has very little to do with my ability. It actually has more to do with no longer being as wrong-headed as I used to be. Meaning that, like the example of the idea of a truck bringing a bunch of stuff to a single drop-off point, ostensibly to save fuel, so they're not driving all over your neighborhood and town, but forgetting that the only way you can then pick up the packages is to drive to the drop-off point. You do the math and you realize, wait, you've changed nothing. You've improved nothing. How is that any different than working on an animation shot and skipping steps and not being careful and being in a hurry to see some sort of finished result and then, maybe post it on Discord or YouTube or whatever. And you haven't really gotten it to where it needs to be. And then you say, hey, how am I doing, community? The fact is, you probably wouldn't even ask that question if you didn't know in your heart that it wasn't up to where it needs to be. Would you? No, you wouldn't. So as I said, unlike most YouTubers, I'm not going to tease you for 20 minutes to get you to watch longer and then tell you what the valuable lesson is. The valuable lesson is this. The odds are very, very high that you as a creator know exactly what to do. You know good from bad. You know if it's up to where it needs to be. And the lesson is, if it's not, you're going to go back and have to redo it, and whatever time you saved by shortcutting it, you'll wind up spending later. Either way, you're going to spend the time. You gain nothing by shortchanging the work. So, there you go. That's it. That's the most valuable lesson. The most valuable lesson is that the slow way is the fast way, and the fast way, without a doubt, is the slow way. So, that's the lesson, and now we're back to the Animation Truman Show, which is the slow, laborious process of pounding this show into shape. Good news is, it's going pretty well. I've got all these shots of Fala. I think all of them. I have to go double check, but most of these shots of Fala have been punched up, as I like to say, so that they now look not only smoother, but also Fala is on character, which is kind of important. She really does kind of need to look like Fala, doesn't she? So the super wide shot, I don't mind that she looks really simplified. That's fine. But through the rest of it, we had some real characterization issues. So that's the fixed version. And plus some tweens added. So it could be that to a degree, slightly lesser quality might be a function of not knowing any better. There is that. And there's really not a lot you can do about that except just practice, But, well, especially too, yesterday, of course, was it Max? I think it was Max who asked some question that kind of amounted to, what do I need to improve in my work kind of thing. I can't remember what the exact question was, but that's what it amounted to. And my answer was, I think my answer amounted to, I think you already know. You're doing some things very well. And I think probably the most useful thing I said was that nobody gets to the level you're at without having the ability to get all the way to the level you want to be. You're doing well. But there's things that need to improve. That's true for all of us. So I guess we should be asking ourselves when we post and share. There's nothing wrong with a work in progress. There's a time for that. For sure. Hey Max, just talking about you, buddy. There's nothing wrong with a work in progress, and there's certainly nothing wrong with getting feedback. But when you get feedback, remember that there's a difference between the visceral response of a community that probably for the most part maybe is not necessarily as accomplished as you yourself are. for that community to go, it's looking great, is actually pretty useless information for you. Because on balance, those people might be kind of easy to impress, actually. So you never want to compare your progress to the opinions of that community. It's useful and it is encouraging, so on the emotional side of things, it's useful. But in terms of actually getting to where you want to be, it's pretty useless information. Hence, yesterday when we talked about this, I said, what you really want to do, in Max's case, of course, doing a bit of a send-up on Death Note, my advice is look at Death Note. It's no more complicated than that. And then it's up to you. And think about it. Sooner or later, you will have to have the skill and the discernment to know for yourself, at a glance, not only if you're to where you want to be, but also if it's got things that are wrong, to have the discernment to know exactly what's wrong. Of course you have to develop that skill. And you will. And there's only one way to do it. And that's by ruthlessly comparing yourself to some objective standard, not the opinions of your community. They are there to encourage you, that's true. And that's nice. But it's going to be vanishingly rare that they're going to give you any kind of input that's actually going to make you better. What they are going to do is they're going to cheer you up so that you keep going. They are going to do that for you. But they're not going to give you useful information. At the end of the day, it's up to each of us individually to make a decision to have standards higher than we used to have, or to be, let's say, uncompromising. And when you do that, what you'll find is your work just is getting better. And it's getting better because you're doing the work. You're just doing the work. Not complicated. Okay, those are all saved. Let's pop open 370. And that's why I can be snarky at times. If someone offers an opinion about the right way to do this or that or the other, and I get a little snarky and I say, well, okay, but are you doing this and that and the other? What have you done? That can seem a little snarky. And it is a little snarky. It is a little cynical. Let's see, I need the wide shot here, don't I? Yeah. So I'm looking at stuff I need to steal from Fala in order to make this shot work. It's partly why I don't get too involved in collaborative projects. Oh, we got a problem here with Tianara that I just recognized. Great example of what I'm talking about. This is what happens to us all the time as creative people. We look at this and we see right here that the characterization went a little sideways, and I miss that. It's so easy to you've put in hours of work, let's say, on this shot, and you're so eager to show people what you've done, which is perfectly natural, perfectly fine, that you go, let's post it. Even though there's this like glaring problem that you haven't addressed yet, right? That's kind of my message today. For me, the lesson is don't do it. Don't do it. Actually, I suppose this could just be removed, couldn't it? And probably this as well. Yeah, there we go. Don't do it. Get all the way to the finish line. Unless you're specifically showing something as a work in progress. That's my advice. Not just because not just because we can find ourselves wasting a lot of time socially instead of engaging with the work. Well, let's just say that. Let's leave it at that. It can be a bit of a black hole of. Wait a second here. Which shot is this? Is this 366? It is. Save that. You guys get my point? Hey, Quad Demon, haven't seen you in a while there, buddy. All right, let's lock that one in, and then we're gonna steal some. We're gonna steal some fala for shot number 370. So yeah, that's my most. And when I'm seriously, I'm very, very serious about that. When I look at the last 2 years, the most valuable thing I have learned is that almost everything you do to save time, when there's this tiny little voice inside you that's saying, it's not quite where it needs to be. You need to work a little harder. You need to go a little longer. You need to finish. If you don't listen to that voice, if you're a person that's really trying to do well, then what's going to happen is you're going to wind up going back and doing it anyway. And so the time you saved, you won't save any time at all. 0. Or you'll just settle. You'll settle. You'll go, actually all I ever really wanted was those kudos from my, the people on Discord or whatever. That's really all I wanted. I just wanted people to pat me on the back and be impressed with what I'm doing. I don't really care about actually doing competitive work. Are you that person? I don't think so. No. Nobody who comes here is that person. The people who come here are the people who say, you know what? I want to be the person that aims to a higher standard and just works at it and doesn't stop short. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, friends? Hope that's useful. Going back to yesterday, how about for the audience's teens? How do you know your audience will like the show and choose your show over other shows like Avatar? Great question. What a great question. I know that major studios do things like test audiences and focus groups. Yeah. The answer is this. When I consulted with my film distributor on creating a cartoon, the advice he gave me and the earning projections that he speculated for a show of this nature were predicated on the idea that it would be a show aimed at kids from 3 to 8 years old with a talking animal. I made a command decision actually based on Avatar: The Last Airbender, specifically, to say, you know what? That's not what turns me on. I could do that at some point, but not this. This, I want to aim at 8 to 15 years old, and while there is an animal, he doesn't talk. He's not. He's a little magical, I guess, but, because he acts human, human-like in some ways, right? That's part of the fun and the joke of it, I guess. But basically, so I made a command decision not to completely follow the advice of the distributor. And he's going with me on that. He's saying, this could work. Clearly, shows like Avatar have shown that this type of content can grab an audience. So the short answer to your question is, I don't know. I do not know. Frankly, if it could be a function of my failure to engage socially as much as I might, that the view numbers on the Salt and Light webisodes are very modest. I think webisode 1's up to like 400 views. So nothing's gone viral. Nothing's exploded. Nothing's been particularly impressive. I don't care because I know what I'm trying to create. Okay? So this kind of speaks back to what I'm talking about. I have a standard I've set for what I'm trying to do for my own reasons. And it may fail. If I look at it when it's all said and done and I can honestly say, I feel it's good, it's entertaining to me, I enjoy it, then it's worth it because it isn't purely a capitalistic endeavor where I'm just trying to create something that I feel pretty confident will fit in the marketplace and make money. Okay, there's a time for that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, I'm in the process of sort of not only developing my skills, but my discipline as well. Kind of more along the lines of what I've been talking about last night and today. So therefore, this is certainly a worthy endeavor, and boy, have I learned a lot. And again, I keep pointing back to over the weekend working on the Futurama thing. I can say with great confidence that the quality of work I did on Friday, Saturday, Sunday is at least half again better than what I would have done, gosh, probably just even 6 months ago. And it isn't because, again, my drawing has improved. But it isn't that. That's not why it's better. It's better because I know I'm kind of refusing to settle for a lower standard. So of course, in the case of Futurama, it is a pencil test at this point, right? So it could be that it'll fall apart, theoretically, through the ink and paint, and it'll wind up being subpar. That could happen. If it does, though, it'll be totally my fault. It'll be because I settled, because I got in a hurry. I was so eager to show everybody this so that all my friends here on YouTube can go, "Oh, Dave, that's so cool." Which it does make you feel good, but in the big scheme of your life, it's basically useless. I'll go back to Stephen J. Cannell, who I tend to quote kind of frequently, when he talked about winning Emmy Awards for TV shows. This is the same Stephen J. Cannell I talked about yesterday as being a guy who, before he ever was famous or successful or anything, he would work a day job and then go home and write for 5 hours a day. For 5 years, he wrote for 5 hours a day before he got his opportunity. Why would you do that? Well, you do that because he actually really loved writing. His moral compass was in the right place because he did it for the right reasons. And therefore, he just developed his skill. And when his moment of opportunity appeared, he was able to rise to the challenge. So in my case, if somebody said, "Look, we want to work with you on this cartoon thing. And so it means you have to stop everything you're doing and go work on this new thing over here." I don't know if I'm quite there, but I'm getting closer to where I can say that, you know what? Whatever that thing is, I would do a good job on it. It would be, they wouldn't be sorry they worked with me, kind of thing, right? But the reason I feel that way is mostly to do with this discipline stuff. Knowing that I've sort of figured out how to do things in a way that, and I guess I should label this follower. You understand what I'm trying to say. So yeah, there is no test audience per se. There's just no. This is a total just me on a hunch saying, the 8 to 15-year-old audience for positive themed entertainment along the lines of Avatar: The Last Airbender is a market that I think is underserved. And so maybe a show like mine has a place there. But I could be wrong. Absolutely. I could be wrong. So, I mean, my general sense is if something's good, it'll find its audience eventually anyway. But, all right. So now, I gotta check. I think we need to do this wide shot. Oh yeah, this one. 370 needs to have her face replaced. Yes, face replacement. And now if we go to this one, let's drag this over here. Yes. Look at that. We just need to replace bad follow with good follow. Okay? So, how are we going to do that? Well, here, okay, she turns around and squats down. So yeah, we're going to have to do it as a face replacement. Now this is merged. So what I'm going to do, let me see what we have here. That's Tianara. So this is pretty flat. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in a group. And what we're going to do is we're basically just going to work with Fala's face. Okay. Now, okay. Well, okay. Probably what we could do is just grab this. Come back here. And let's just go like this. Okay, that was not what I meant to do. I meant to hit the S key. Let's just delete this and Control-Shift-V, paste this in, and then we'll fix the skirt. I guess we could. This is, yeah, we might as well grab this as well. Oops, I guess we could go like that, right? Control C, and then again, because this is flat, let's go Shift Control V. Stop right there. I think we're okay. Okay, let's see what we have here. So she does this tween, but that's essentially just a flip. And then this happens pretty fast. So I guess we'll go here, Control Shift A. So what I want to do is actually drag this keyframe over to here, hit the A key, and then we're just going to flip it. Flip it, baby. Boom. Okay, flip it and then move it into position. So then we just have to fix the tween. So I hope that answers your question. The short answer is there's no way of knowing, and I'm not particularly concerned about it at this point. Okay. And by the way, keep in mind that the vast majority of entertainment, very very little stuff becomes like the flavor of the week, the popular thing, the successful thing, the viral thing. Very little. If you don't have a model for building a career based on modest successes most of the time, then I think that would be pretty foolish. Because the reality is that's, most of your work is only going to be just maybe somewhat successful, right? That's just the way it is. And it's always going to be that way. And frankly, most of the careers in Hollywood are built on very occasional and very modest successes. And yet many, many people in that environment have, long careers. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say, let me see if this, yeah, that worked. So not everything has to be worked to death. This is a great example of that. That's a very good looking tween, even though this is a pretty abrupt and obnoxious change. So this is a case where I'm not going to fix it anymore. I'm not going to belabor it because it goes by so fast you can't see it. So it's not about being, Mr. Mega picky. It's about being Mr. Mega picky where it matters. Okay, so here probably we can fix this with some liquefy, I suspect. What I'm going to do, I did this on the other scene, and again, because these are tweens, I might be okay. And if it turns out I'm not, then I'll deal with it. But here's what I did before. I went like this, and then I got her skin tone up to where it needed to be, and then I basically did the same thing with her hair. So, like I said, we'll see if it flies. So Control F. And if it doesn't, we'll fix things a little more aggressively. Control F. Okay, so now what I got to do is grab her hair and go Control M and darken that. Control F now to repeat the filter. So you're doing the salt and light thing to improve your skills and because of your own enjoyment, not just monetary reasons. Right. My hope is that, I would hope that once it's on the open market, that any given 24-minute episode would ultimately earn at least a couple $100 a month in royalties. And I suspect that's probably reasonable, if not conservative. And yeah, if you make it, they will come. I think that you look at Steve Jobs, with the way back when the iMac and then later the iPhone. I mean, Steve understood that supply always drives demand. People have this crazy Adam Smithian delusion about the marketplace demand driving, you know, economics and culture and everything that's driven by demand, and it's not, especially in the entertainment space. People don't know what they want, you know, until somebody has the audacity to create something and then promote it. You do have to promote it so people are aware. And then if it grabs, it grabs, and usually it won't. Usually it won't. Most stuff doesn't become super successful. Now that doesn't mean you can't make a living with modestly successful stuff. You can. That's the thing that's cool about it. You don't have to be the best or have the most successful thing ever in order to, do okay and be able to do this for a living or whatever, right? So I'm pretty confident in my, ability to create entertainment and probably do all right. Okay, I would say on this shot, we are probably okay. What I want to do is punch up her eyebrows. So let's hit the B key. Fala's got actually fairly bushy eyebrows. So, and we don't need the onion skins on anymore. So yeah, Salt and Light is just, I'm creating something that I would have fun watching. And in some ways, of course, because of my burgeoning abilities, there are things about it that I'm not happy with. And, of course, I can go back and improve those still if I want to. I'm not locked into what's in the webisodes, even including the voices. If I want to change them, I can change them. It's my show. But remember, I made 4 movies before I had one that was modestly successful. Well, and then I had 2 after that were basically, again, pretty much failures. Now the one I think is actually going to wind up doing okay once it gets out there. It's a bit of a sleeper. That movie, Clerical Errors. That's a movie that if people give it a chance, they always come away smiling, kind of thing, right? And that only actually got released widely. I think it came available like a month ago, even though it sat on the shelf for like 5 years. Okay, so I don't know what Fala says here, actually. So I'm going to assume not much since she turns right away. So therefore, I'm going to go ahead and bake her little smile. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I want to change with Fala is she's got the baggy eyes, but these wrinkles don't belong, so I'm just going to paint them out. And I'm going to do it with the pencil so that there's still a little bit of a hint of an age line there, but not too much. Do you know of anyone like you who are making their own show by themselves? In short, no. Nope. I take Ed Hooks at his word. He says I'm a pioneer. I'm like, okay, as I said yesterday, it's all real great to be a pioneer, but that probably just means you're going to die on the frontier, and all the people who come after you are the ones who are going to make all the money. Nope. I'm not. In fact, and by the way, that's when I reached out to Ed Hooks, the reason I did it is I said, look, I'll give you my literal thought process was this. I know that what I'm doing is very unusual. And to some people in some circles, the whole one-man studio thing is kind of a cool thing. But it's mostly cool to other animators or other creators. Okay, it's not cool to the marketplace. They don't care how a show got done. They couldn't possibly care less. All they know is they either enjoy it or they don't. It's not cool to distributors or platforms, except to the degree that the question becomes, can we get something produced cheaply so that we know it's going to be profitable? I mean, I haven't made the greatest movies in the world, but I'll guarantee you they were all profitable. You know, because if I can make stuff so cheaply, I'm guaranteed to make a profit. I mean, that's what, essentially that was Roger Corman's approach to filmmaking. He made cheap movies, and he never had a movie that didn't make a profit. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and render this and just see how it's sitting in the show. This is supposed to be 370. There are still a couple things about this shot that I'm not sure about, but man, it goes by quick, and that's why I want to see what it looks like in the show. So we got 370. Is that correct? Yeah. Good day, Amar. Good to see you, my friend. Yeah, so the reason I shared the little story about the Amazon truck, by way of illustration, meaning an example of something where people often will be well-meaning with an idea that turns out actually doesn't make a lot of sense upon closer examination. And I was kind of relating that to the idea of the story we tell ourselves. And I've done it. I mean, I speak from experience here. You know, of trying to work fast, only to have to go and fix the shots up later. You know, it's kind of insanity, actually. Okay, that looks pretty good. I don't like with her waist. There's a couple things about her waist right there that I'm not loving. That goes by. That's a one frame tween, so that doesn't really matter. But when she lands, I want to punch up that drawing a little bit. Hey, Tiny Salad. Okay, so that means boom. It means boom. So this should be rounded a bit, like so. Why is that color wrong? Probably because of the shadows. Yes, we do have a bit of a vignette thing going on. So yeah, there we go. Alright, so this should be more like that. And then this should be kind of folding that in. Even less there. And I think that probably feels pretty good. And then we'll give a little indication that the cloth is kind of bopping out a bit. Okay, so now I should be able to render that one and pop her into the show. Okay, my answer to the question you posted: patience and timing. What was the question? Oh, you took the title as a question. What's the biggest lesson you've learned? Patience and timing. Can you expand on that answer, please? The patience part I understand. The timing part I'm not sure I understand. What do you mean by timing? And it is a leading question because my suspicion is that I'm going to disagree with you. Wouldn't that be unusual, right, Amar, for us to disagree? Yeah, what do you mean by timing? I shall patiently wait for an answer to emerge in the chat. Okay, do we need to deal with the outline here? I don't think so. I don't think we do. I think we can rock and roll and move forward. The patience part harmonizes with what I was saying, in that to do anything to save time, ostensibly at a sacrifice of the ultimate level of quality you know you want to attain to is a fool's errand, and only excusable in a situation where your knowledge has enough of a deficit that what you've done sucks and you literally don't yet know that it sucks. That's excusable, actually. But if you know and you try to save time, and then, which I've done a million times, and then you have to go back and improve it later, then you haven't saved any time at all. So you've just been kidding yourself all along. Okay, this is actually looking okay. All right, is that... Let me make sure this is matching. Yeah, I think it is. Yep. Follow's looking pretty good. Okay. By timing, do you mean creating something that's trending at the right time? Yeah, that's what I think he means by timing, but I'm waiting for him to answer. And I think that that's the way I look at... Let's assume that's... Okay, there's Amos. Timing is referring to the animation being more than just drawings. It's how the drawing... Oh, he's talking about animation timing. Okay. That I do agree with. And it depends on what you're doing. That's actually one of the things I thought was pretty cool about working on Futurama, is that you're talking about this, which is a, theoretically it's a straight ahead, full animation, but at 8 frames per second kind of thing. I shouldn't say full animation. It's still very selective about what moves, but jumping over to 24 frames per second on Futurama turned out to be a very cool change. It was a nice change and good to practice a little different approach. Yeah, I thought you were talking about market timing, which is why I said I think I will disagree with you, because I think that it's good to let... It's like me talking to a distributor before I made a movie, that the movie that was successful because I simply asked the distributor, what should I put in the movie if we want this thing to sell? And he told me, and then I put that stuff in the script. It's not complicated. So, intelligently targeting a genre or a trend is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's just smart. It's just good business. Your creativity isn't in being original. Your creativity is in giving an original twist to something that people are either accustomed to or want to see. Because otherwise you'll do something that's really, really cool and no one will ever see it because you can't really garner the interest, kind of thing. It happens once in a while, but it's rare. So Toy Story might be a good example of something that was, in its time, super, super unusual, but it was just so undeniably good that, people got behind it. I'm not an expert on how that all unfolded, but if they hadn't had the backing of Steve Jobs, speaking of Steve Jobs, then Toy Story never would have happened, because Pixar would have been belly up. And I think that's pretty safe to say, because most of the rest of the animation industry was kind of going into starting to enter a slump at that point. Disney was still doing their every couple of years. I don't know when Hercules came out, for example. So they kept it limping along, but the CGI thing sort of had to happen to give the industry a bit of a boost, I would say. Okay, I think we did it, guys. We got through Fala and Tianara. I'm going to go back to the beginning of this sequence and just kind of let it roll and see if anything flags me. So, it's a constant battle, even if you feel confident in your drawing skills, to move a character in 3D space while maintaining the character's design. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Staying on character has, for me, by far been the most difficult thing. It's really only been, I would say, in the last 2 months that I've actually felt like, okay, I'm actually getting good at this. I'm starting to get to where I am consistent with keeping characters on characters. So my drawing has definitely had plenty of room for improvement in the time I've been doing this. Okay, so there's one thing about that shot that's bugging me. Golik is pretty nasty when he turns around in terms of his look, like right there. That shadow, you know, I don't really like how black that is. Let's go back to 365 and see if we can fix that up a bit. Oh, there's 365. So it's right here. Okay, Golek is probably a single layer. Yep, he is. So we're going to have to do it the hard way, which is grab this, do the magic wand here. And by the way, guys, don't let me forget, did I remember to turn, nope, I didn't. Never mind, I'll do it right now. I was going to ask if I remembered to turn the vignette back on. It's not a vignette, it's actually just a light. But yeah, so this has to be rendered. Go. We'll let that render, then we'll come back to 365. So even with the doing all in my past comment, timing is a key issue that must be mastered to solve the animation. Otherwise you just have a much on model pretty drawings. Yeah, I can't really disagree. Most of what I've done the last 2 days is taking animation that the animation's okay and the timing's okay, but I've needed to add tweens to just get it, you know, just get it up to scratch. Okay, that's not going to work. We're going to have to go. Okay. Now, probably that would be good. And then I wonder what happens if I blur this, if it clamps it. Actually, let's use Gaussian blur. I wonder if it's going to clamp it to the... Yeah, it is. Okay, so... well, these are tweens, so I think what I'll do is this. I actually think what I'll do is I'll grab this brush, this, hello? Oh, need to hit the B key there, Jack. This brush here. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do. This is going by quick, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the blur brush to just blend that. Almost gives it a bit of a motion blur kind of feeling anyway. So yeah, I agree, Amar. You can't overstate the value of learning to deal with timing. Okay, so we got to do 3 things here. Or maybe 2. I can't count first thing in the morning. Control M. Okay, so before I go any further, I want to make sure that I get that right. See, it looks like most of that was motion blurred already, so. Okay, so I've given myself a little extra work to do, unfortunately, because this can't really hide that line. But again, since it's motion blurred, it doesn't much matter. You know, obviously here he's kind of blending in with his background. Does that matter? Maybe. I would say maybe. I'm gonna actually make this a little bigger and just all right, let's see how that looks. Boom. Obviously it gets cut off, so let's just look at it in the show. It looks worse than it is probably because it holds on a a motion frame that is obviously pretty sloppy because theoretically it can be. Yeah, see, we cut away from it. I would argue that I almost feel like it can be even more, like almost like a focal blur kind of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just do that. There we go. Cool. That will work. All right. There we go. Back to the show. Back to the show. And actually, I will say, when she goes, I don't know, maybe we'll... Excuse me, friends. Sorry to sneeze in your ear. I'm going to go ahead and chop one more frame out of that. Actually, I am sorry I did that. It's a subtle difference, but... Okay, and also, 366, there's something else I want to do here. Which is... Yeah, there's Golek. Where the heck are you, Golek? Where's your motion tool? Aha! Okay. So, we've got him here, and then going here, so this was a little bit silly. Where is Golek? Is this Golek? No, that's background stuff. There he is. Let's animate Golek just a little bit more. Why is it showing this selection? That's kind of weird. Oh, because there's a selection, stupid. Alright. I knew that. Probably I should solo this layer and turn on the skins so I can see what I'm doing. That would be good. So the point is I want Golek to already be on the move when this shot begins. Okay. And that's that. And now I'm going to do one more thing that might be a little dangerous. I'm going to add a transform mask. And I'm actually going to liquefy it. Which again is a little dangerous. But the idea here is that we are well, we're adding the same transform mask to all of the animation keys is what we're doing. So I can see why I did this the way I did it. Golek is both in front of and behind the and then Krita blew up. I had a feeling that might happen. The Krita's, you know, the transform masks in Krita 5 are buggy, to put it generously. Let's put it that way. I think it was 366 we were just working with. Did I save my work? It appears that I kind of did. Okay, so anyway, here's the problem we have right here is I want to make a fix on this animation, which isn't a problem. We can do that. But the problem is that he is both in front of and behind the background. So there we go. Okay, so then here, what we have to do is duplicate this layer and then put it down here. And that way some of the keyframes will be in front of the background layer, and some of them will be behind it. But we're not going to actually make that duplicate yet. Let's get the characterization fix on the silhouette in order first. So I'm going to do it the same way. I'm going to do a transform up, and then it blew up again. Wow. Okay. So what does that mean? Does that mean that for Krita 5, if you use a transform mask while soloing a layer, that Krita will blow up? It could be. It could be. I have no idea. The good news is I'm not even slightly surprised. So I'm going to put this in front, save my work, and we're just going to start doing this one little step at a time to see what blows up. I'm not going to isolate the layer. And I don't know what just happened. I accidentally clicked twice. Okay, I see what happened. All right, I'm going to save now. And now I'm going to go into animate mode, liquefy. Krita did not blow up, so all indications are at the moment that actually the problem is what I said, probably, which is that if you're soloing the layer, who knows why, but it appears that if you're soloing a layer, being in doing a transform mask, and the second time it blew up, I was not in liquefy mode, so I don't think it has anything to do with being in liquefy mode. It appears that the transform masks put the software at risk if the layer is being soloed. Pretty weird. So what we're going to do now is we're going to flatten this layer so that bakes the transform mask into all of those frames. And so now we get this. And actually, look at that. You know what we could probably do? Let's turn Fala off so we're not being distracted by these characters. Let me just see what we have here. I bet you. Okay, so what I did was, I'll bet you, nope, that is just the, how, oh, here we go. Well, no. Sorry guys, I'm a little mystified here. It's acting like the, you see what's going on here? So he's being masked out by this little section here, but yet that section is underneath. It's almost like an erase layer. But where, my friends? Where is there an erase layer? Golik merged. How did I manage to get that baked in like that? Pretty weird. So, here's what we're going to do. What we're going to do is another transform mask. Okay, so watch this, friends. Watch this. I'm going to take all of this and get rid of them. Okay? Now, just by way of testing, as you can see, the masking issue is no longer there. So clearly what happened was that masking was baked into the layer, and I'm not even going to try to unpack how I managed that because it doesn't actually make perfect sense at the moment. But I'm just going to stick in another transform mask and immediately put in 2 keyframes right there. Okay, and then on this keyframe, I'm going to move Golik to here. See, look, we're getting the same thing. That is pretty weird, friends. Oh, no, we're not. Okay, okay, so that was an anomaly. Good. Good. Okay, so now we've got that done. what we can now do is flatten the layer and bake the animation into Golek. So we've got that animation baked in. We don't have the masking issue. Now what we'll do is we'll put Golek in a group, and then we will add an erase layer. Boom. And then we will simply draw a shape right here, like that. And what that will do is make it so that when Golek gets to that edge, he gets erased. Look at that. Okay, so now the question becomes, do we need to keep him moving even longer? Yes, we do. Because Fala's talking there. Golek shouldn't be standing in the doorway. That is wrong, wrong, wrong. So, that is most unfortunate. But what it means is that we just have to keep this animation going here. And we can do it the hard way. Just one little keyframe at a time. Like so. So every once in a while you get these little mysteries. And then you have to try to solve them. Cool. Now we have seriously punched up this shot in an amazing way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and look at the... Well, there's nothing new in the chat, so... Apparently things are becoming a little more dull out there in Chatland. Or maybe you guys have other screens open where there's things going on in the world that are more interesting than anything I'm doing here. Now, this looks stupid, doesn't it? Yep. So now let's punch that up. There's a couple ways we can do it. One would be, I'm going to save my work. I want to kind of work with this for half a second. My thinking is, if we actually eliminate every other frame, we're going to introduce a certain amount of choppiness that might be a good thing. Yeah, and then perhaps what we might do here is restore the in-between frames with just a little bit of rotation, which would suggest a little bit of body weight. I don't know if this is going to work, but I think it is. Kind of gets to what Amar was talking about, right? Timing, timing, timing. Let's see what happens. That's kind of interesting, actually. It almost feels like Golek has a little bit of a limp going on or something. Seems a little too extreme to me. So I'm going to go ahead and hit undo. And I'm going to do that again, but I'm going to make it way more subtle than it was. Just a teensy-weensy little bit of rotation. Because there's never been anything in the show that would suggest that Golek has a limp. So just the tiniest bit to suggest, you know, that he's alive, he's alive. And then that has to be, I'm sorry, that has to be insert. Let's give that a crack. Not necessarily loving it. I think I'll cut it into the show though and see what it looks like. Let's cut it into the show, friends. What time is it? 11:06. How are we doing on time? Holy cow, I've been live streaming for an hour already. That's insanity. Utter and complete insanity. Okay. Bam. I think I know what the problem is. Okay. In the real world, we know that taking a step, whoops, that's not what we want to do. We want to go Shift Alt. Okay, so we know that taking a step in normal, normal human walking is about a 1/2 of 1 second proposition. So I just want to see what happens if we just go ahead and slow this guy down a little bit. Dun 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 dun. I definitely prefer the slower pace. Interesting. Hello? Let's go back to the game. Okay. Oops. I guess we have to render it, don't we? Render. Alright. And... Alright. Pop it into the show in loop mode. And 2-3 minute back. There we go. Alright, I am back with a fresh, tasty beverage. H2O. I'm gonna actually watch through the rest of this. I'm thinking I'm gonna not keep working on Golic. For now. Move on and assess the final sequence in the webisode. There's some other things we could do there too. When Sorry guys, my bad. I actually clicked the I clicked the icon, but I didn't look and make sure, so no big deal. I've just been scanning through this last segment to see if there's any egregious shots, and indeed there are. Yeah, that is horrid. I don't know what happened there. So I'm gonna say let's just be bold. Okay. Let's take this and drop that down to see what happens. Okay, that answers that question. This is not well, wait, maybe it is. Oh, it is. I'm sorry, my bad. I thought it wasn't a smart raster level. Okay, so let me think about how I want to handle this. I got a little bit of a pickle. That's going to prevent me from zapping through it quite as quickly as I might prefer. We can't liquefy, unfortunately. So this is okay. Let's just look at this for a second. Yeah, that is so bad. That's just embarrassing. I am going to... Okay, first thing I'm going to do is see if there's any salvaging this with just some judicious cut and paste. So this is going to be looking pretty stupid, but it's worth taking half a second to see if it can be done. It looks like it actually can. Okay, let's just keep rolling with this and see what happens. G key, F key. Let's go with V. And this is, we'll erase that. I'm not really erasing, I'm actually just painting over, but okay. That is actually vastly improved. Obviously the shadows are whacked. S key. What do we have? We've got 2 layers of shadows, I think. Yep. Okay. That's alright. So let's fix that. I guess we'll hit the C key here and oh my goodness. Get rid of all those nodes and just kind of do this the vector way. Looks like this one's already kind of set up like that. In other words, there aren't too many extra nodes. So this little bit here is problematic, so I'm going to hit Control, which adds a node. That way I can... And there's a time to work with it sort of procedurally. Ooh, that's not good. A little bit of a Bezier interpolation issue. Actually, let's go back to this. Oh, please, C key. Let's delete those. Yep, there we go. There we go. There we go. We might have fixed most of it. Not quite. Not quite. This might be a classic example of something that should just be redrawn from scratch. Actually, I am going to turn off the background. I can turn off the shadows. We'll turn this way down. I don't want to lose the timing of it. But what I do want to do is hit Insert, hit the B key, Cool. So now I'm going to create a new pencil test based on using the both the palette and the methodology that I've been using more of lately. This, I think for the moment I'm going to turn this off. Let's just turn that off too. Oh, I see. This is the other shadow layer. Hello? There we go. All right. I do want this in here, but I want it really, really faint. I don't want it to be strong enough to sort of distract me from what I'm doing in terms of just drawing him on the fly. So yeah, that's a little better. Okay, so yeah. This part we might be able to keep. I'm not going to sweat that too much at the moment. Okay. This is going to be a bit of a challenge because I'm going to actually work around the mouth. Kind of silly, you know. It's not like it would be very difficult to redo the mouth. But, kind of an interesting challenge to try to draw around it and make it work, so. Why did my pencil quit working a moment ago? Better save my work. That's better. That's better. So I'm drawing these contours knowing that I'm not going to actually, these wrinkles aren't going to be that extreme, but the contours help to just keep the flow of the character on character. Right? So this is something that's good to look for in your drawing, is looking for these continuities. They help you measure as well. Like here, to keep the ears in the same relative position where they should be, I'm allowing this contour line to sort of guide me a bit. So that looks pretty good. Let's pull out a bit. Okay. His little hat. Okay. So now I want to tween this. So boom. And I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to say, here's the starting point. Here's the ending point. So let's go ahead and have, okay, contour, contour. So that looks pretty good. Okay. Beard, beard, beard. So something like that gets me between those two. Here's the, he's basically in a profile here, straight ahead here. So let's just say this is going to be 3/4. Bony cheeks. Okay. So we'll start to see the bony cheek there. actually exaggerate the eye there for fun. So we're going to have a little animation fun here, obviously. Asher's nose always looks like it's drawn from a side view, even when it's not. So, again, deliberately exaggerating a bit. Again, these contour lines to sort of keep Goswami. You're asking me what version of Blender I'm using. You realize you've made the whole peanut gallery crack up laughing since I'm not using Blender at all, unless you're talking about when I do use Blender. This is not Blender. This is Tahoma 2D. But if you're asking me what version of Blender I tend to favor lately, then that would be still 2.81a. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, and now this, I'm going to make a little adjustment like that. Lip sync, lip sync, lip sync, and then here. This could be a D key, actually. Let's hit D key, since we're just working with his head and I guess head and shoulders, really. Let's erase this. And the directionality looks a little wrong here. No, those eyes look cockeyed, don't they? D key. Kind of pretty much want him looking directly into the camera, I would say. Here, he's kind of looking past it. So that's really wrong, actually. Let's just redraw them. B key. Yeah, I think I really want Asher looking directly into the camera. Okay, keep going. There's stuff that's easy and there's stuff that's hard. And so here, let's just see. Yeah, it's probably gonna be safest to do it this way. Okay, now, I don't think I can do this the way I'm gonna try to do it. I don't think it's really quite gonna work, but I'm gonna try. Actually, I might be wrong about that. And I'm going to hit the control key and put a little bit of a stretch right there. So actually that pretty much worked. Okay, let's pull back. Okay, not bad. Couple things that need a little attention. That looks good. This doesn't. This is pretty obviously lame. And I'm going to make this. Just trying to find the positioning that makes Asher looking directly into the camera. And then here I want his, you know, I want that little bit of a kind of look going on with his eyes. So the one eye's open more than the other. Let's zip in here. Let me redo that one more time. This might be too extreme. Actually, not so much. The only real issue with it actually is that the pupil appears to be in the wrong place to me. Yeah. And now I think, whoops, I'm gonna raise that up just a little bit. Okay. This is better. Actually, this drawing's more better. Okay. And then this one, yes, that actually works pretty well. I would say a little bit more of a slant here. Push that in a little bit. Can hit the M key to make sure. Always helps to flip your canvas. Yes, that's better. Yep, and now I can see, because I flipped the canvas, what's wrong with this one. Okay, so do we have enough tweens? Okay, let's do one here. So this is going to be D key. We'll go ahead and put that on there, so we can do a little bit of a sideways stretch. Okay, a little bit of a rotate. Hello, what just happened? Seriously, dude? Okay, that's like unspeakably annoying, but okay. Thank you, Tahoma, for just like erasing my drawing for no apparent reason. S key, Control V. Let's just do it again. Rotate, slight move, and then what did I say? I wanted to have a little bit of a I've always had a love-hate relationship with the selection tool in Tahoma. Yep, that looks fine. So turn that onion skin off, and now we got to look at this. Yeah, this is going to be the same thing. So let's do a duplicate. We'll save our work just to be safe. Blender would be 2.81A then, if that's what you're wondering about. I just haven't had any really good reason to go too far with 2.9-ish. So there it is. Okay, save our work, and let's hit the old rewind button. Yeah, that looks so freaking much better. It's ridiculous. Okay, let's go through and ink this guy. Let's go through and ink this fella. Okay, we're going to do the old one layer thing. So this is a My Paint brush that's got a little bit of smoothing baked into the brush. I guess this particular shot, the mouth is baked in. Okay, I don't know if I'm gonna have to like completely redo his garment and everything, so let's turn this layer back on and just take a look. Okay, yeah, so he's got his other arm there. Obviously that particular drawing is pretty similar to the old one. And so what we're gonna, if we want to marry them together, then we probably should just redo this. We're gonna cut this off like there. And then this one will just follow this contour. Okay, so this is a little bit kludgy to try to have to work this out so that it so that I can reuse most of the old layer. If it doesn't work out, I'll redo it. It's not a big deal, but if I can reuse it, I might as well. Okay, so now, because the way I'm doing this, I can now grab my pencil test brush, hit erase, and see what he's really going to look like. Pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. But by erasing that, I also can see where a little bit more fine-tuning would help. Okay, so here we're going to oh, come on, Tahoma. Jeez. The heck was that? One, two, three. Again, not sure about his mouth. I'm just not sure if Asher's mouth has to be in there. I think it does in that particular drawing. Boom, 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 and boom. And oh, the wrinkles. So many wrinkles. So I'll put that in there just in case I do need it, because I'm really not sure. And then this, by having that other drawing underneath it, I can kind of guesstimate where the garment needs to go. Like so. Well, okay, that was sloppy. Don't be sloppy, Dave. Do not be a sloppy boy. Be a good boy. Okay, that's probably okie dokie. And now we hit the 1 key to go back to our pencil, and then the eraser, as Darren T would say. And that feels pretty good. Back to ink. Okay. Yes, yes, I'm humming the venerable Smurfs theme. La 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 la. Whoops. Why, that's completely unacceptable there, dude. I don't like that. Boom, boom. A little bit more wrinkle action there. Smack that down into there. Actually, undo. Perhaps I should save my work. Yeah, not a bad idea. Yep, Smurfs. Yep. La 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 la. La 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 la. So I'm just going to put that line in there as an indicator, as Mr. Spock would say. He doesn't say indicator, he says indicator. Or at least I think he does. At least when he says sensor, he never says sensor, he says sensors. The sensors indicate, Captain, that we are just miles from the planet Troglodyte. La 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 la. Alright, back to the pencil test. Eraser. Okay, now we can cheat a little bit. Actually, stop. Stop for a moment. There's one more thing we need to fix. That's better. S key. Control C. Let's go to the tween. S key. Is this a tween? Yeah, it is. This is just a tween. So I actually think probably that will get me to here. Fine. This shot, we want to ink from scratch. Oh, that's not quite it. It's really kind of splitting the difference there. One more shot left. I'm so happy. I think the first project will be done on time. You talking about that, what are we talking about, Amar? You talking about that Castlevania trailer thing, or are you talking about your community, that little walk cycle thing we were looking at yesterday? What are we talking about? It's always fun to have things getting done. The collaboration. Okay, so the walk cycle. Boy, after I bitched about the sliding, it looked to me on Discord there like Tom had that fixed in a heartbeat, man. I don't know if it's because I complained, but it sure looks good now, I will say. Whatever you guys did, how did you guys do that? Did you do it with the, I guess I could be a little more personable here, by the way. Turn my webcam back on, but did you do that with the step setting in the interpolation like I suggested, or did you do it in some other way? Just make, like the hard way, just by chopping frames out and/or rearranging them a little bit, that type of thing. How'd you do it, friend? How'd you do it? What was your secret? That's just one shot in the whole thing. I got you. I gotcha. But I am curious how you solved the sliding issue, because you guys, whatever you did worked, boy. And then it worked immediately, and then the second iteration of it that I saw there on Discord looked really good. The walk cycle was pretty much okay for one frame, but Tom did the update. He'd be better. Oh, so we don't know how we did it, actually. Okay. Tom, I don't know if Tom's around. I don't know if Tom is around. Okay. Okay, let's smack these down here. 1, 2, 3, and and then this could go to here. And I'm actually going to be fairly meticulous here to match these lines so that I can literally overlap them and get away with it. Will that work or will that backfire? I have no idea, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay, that seems to be closed. Let's zip out. Hit the 1 key and the E key. Oh, come on. Undo. Boy, that's so annoying. Okay, what just happened there was classic Tahoma, which is to say, I hit a hotkey, Tahoma missed it. That's so normal for Tahoma. Tahoma misses hotkeys all the time. All the time, it misses hotkeys. I mean, you know, not exactly like every 2 minutes or anything, but frequently enough to be a known and common problem. Let's just put it that way. Boom. 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 And boom. E key. Now, if we hit the... Okay, I see what's going on here, friends. We need to get rid of that. Okay, good, excellent. This is going to work. Okay. We'll get rid of all of this garbage. And we're going to have to tighten up that ink line there. B key with the ink. And this is going to cause the... You know, the fill check tool to give us some helpful indicators. And we do have an issue there. Okay, undo. Okay, it turns out, friends, that... Oh, did I miss a tween? I will tell you, I am going to actually make an adjustment on this. Slight adjustment. Okay, next. That's a tween, that's not a tween. So, I'm just going to draw it. I'm going to do it the hard way. B key. So let's take a look here at what's going on in the old chitty chat. The walk cycle, blah blah blah. I did see much get done in a short amount of time. Basically, I've been working on the pencils for 2 weeks. Would have been done. The rough pencils and final pencils in 2 weeks. 30 seconds of animation is an achievement. It is. So I know if more time was spent and I got faster, I could do more. Biggest hurdle was the backgrounds and pencils. Yeah, you know, the funny thing is, the background, from what I remember, so for my personal projects, getting past the background faster, like with the Castlevania things I started and storyboarded, I could complete a short in a month. Yeah, I think so. Um, yeah, the thing about the background on that walk cycle shot is that it must have been really good because it didn't jump out at me as being, you know, I didn't look at it and go, ooh, you know, what about that background? You know? So that's the bad news. It's kind of like with special effects, you know, the whole idea is for them to be invisible. So I'm thinking the background must have looked pretty good. Pretty good, my friend, pretty good. And yeah, you can always get faster. It's always helpful to be faster, I suppose. Oops, that's no good. That's not quite angular enough. Well, these shots like this are what's keeping me honest because whoops. You know, you can estimate how long things take, but I'm finding that, you know, everything slows down a lot when I have to redo a shot completely, as I do here. But I don't mind, man. This is what I'm kind of talking about, being the unknown factor for me was if I really, really, really took the time to kind of do this stuff right, would I actually enjoy it? Sounds kind of insane to even ask that question, but it's a true question. And what I've been finding is, basically, here's the deal. If the quality is there, if it looks sharp and it looks crisp, timing's okay. If the final result looks pro-ish, it turns out, I'm finding, in terms of how I feel about it, it's worth, whatever it takes to get there is worth it. It's well worth it. So, other people may look at it differently. I have no idea. Alright, so what I'm going to do here, actually, is I'm going to grab this, Control C, and paste that in, and I'm actually going to make a tiny adjustment. B key. Okay, and now we'll go back to here, and the idea is to connect the dots. Connect the dots. Connect the dots. Okay. For some reason, I just got a weird mental impression of my Aunt Sally. I wonder why. I hope Aunt Sally's doing okay. 11:56. So you focus more on figuring out the backgrounds is my crux at the moment. I didn't do the backgrounds for this. Blifton did. Okay. But it helps illuminate issues I had with my personal project that's supposed to be done already. So once I figured these out, maybe I have to talk with Blifton or just buckle down and research and do them. Making believable backgrounds are a big thing for that short we discussed months ago. Because the animation will be minimal. That is true. This must be updates to shots for the last clip you're working on. Yeah, the we're on the last, we are on the last section of the last webisode, which when this is done, the stuff I've been working on yesterday and today, then all I need to do is do the soundtrack, and boom, we're going to have 5 webisodes out, and this altogether comprises about 27 minutes of animation, which means maybe 26, but basically I've got room in my other video editing timeline. These are already crunched together, and it turns out I have about room to edit out a solid minute of the show, which is really good because that means I can really tighten this thing up even better at the editing stage. Don't you know? So, that'll be good. Okay, this I'm going to steal. And then I'll probably have a conversation with my film distributor and say, look, I have the first episode ready. When we originally talked, we had talked about doing a double length pilot. Hence, that's why there are 2 full episodes that are well underway, obviously in production. And my basic angle will be, what do you want to do? You want to go ahead and release the first one? Because I would at this point be pretty comfortable doing that, for the simple reason that the pace of progress has definitely sped up, like to the point where I'm reasonably comfortable that I could deliver the second episode quite a lot faster than the first one. So, there's that to consider. What do we have here? Interesting. We'll go ahead and smack that all the way down, smack that all the way down, smack that all the way down, and smack that all the way down. And presumably, we'll still be able to use the back of it. So, let's go in here. We'll give him a couple little Farnsworth forehead wrinkle deals. So, if my distributor's like, yeah, it's looking good, let's go ahead and release it. If you think you can crank out the second one within a few months, basically, actually, if I can, I'm thinking about this now, based on the conversations we had, if I am very confident that I can release the second full episode within 3 months, then it will probably be deemed to make sense to go ahead and release it. A quarterly release of a full episode is, from our discussions, would be considered suitable. That would be a fast enough pace of release to be okay. And it is arguable that it would be better to have the 2 full episodes released at the same time. But if you can't, you can't, So we will play that one by ear. Will we go ahead and release it widely or wait? I don't know. Doesn't much matter, really. Does not much matter. And then it's just charge forward and carry on with the next episodes. Keep developing the epic for 12 episodes. That's the goal. Yeah, because the original plan was 12 episodes over 3 years. That was the plan. So that means you're talking about being able to release every 3 months. Now, the catch is, once we get to episode 3, we do not have, over a year of animation behind us that we're just fixing up. As everything's got to be done from scratch. So, can we maintain the pace? And I would say my sense is that probably yes. Not necessarily, but probably yes. Mainly because I will probably be, as I've said here, I'm pretty committed to turning the creation of animated entertainment into an actual full-time job. And so there's a dance. The dance is, well, do you immediately start actually treating it as a full-time job? Or do you wait until, there's some money in the bank kind of thing before you fully commit? And I'm at this point inclined to fully commit, actually. Ba-dum-ba-dum-bum-bum. Ooh. Bad, bad, bad. Bad, 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 bad. Okay. Here. Now this is a tween, I think. Yeah, this is a tween, so that doesn't matter, but this matters. So we gotta go S key. We gotta get him looking out at the camera. So let's go like this and then hit the shift key and go like this. I think that's probably good. Is the release of episodes 2 plus contingent on the success of episode 1? I think it's safe to say only in the sense that if I were to decide that were the case. I think from the vantage point of my distributor, I don't think they really give a rip if the show's only making them a couple $100 a month. What do they care? They're still going to be happy to release it and hang in there with me probably through a whole series, I would think. And the thing about it is that it's like this. I mean, this is the way I look at it. I don't really need the money today, kind of thing, right? And so if you say, well, okay, I'm going to spend 3 years on this thing, and then at the end of the day, let's say each episode's only generating like $100 a month. That is not likely. Like, that bad of a result is not likely, but it's possible. Well, okay, you're still talking about $1,200 a month, ostensibly forever. I don't know about cartoons, but I do know about chick flick horse movies, and I can tell you they have a long shelf life. My movies, the two chick flick horse movies, have earned very consistently for 10 years. Well, one of them for 10 years and the other one for somewhere between 3 and 5 years. The earnings have been extremely consistent. In fact, actually, in the last year, it's gone up a little bit. So, and I should think, especially with audience churn, because, young people tend to watch cartoons, I would think that a cartoon would have a good long shelf life too, which means if you get through it, it becomes like a social security check or something. It's just something out there that's kind of helping you in your life, and all the work is only done one time. That's why we do intellectual property, right? That's the whole point of building on intellectual property. It's why I encourage people to do it. There are audiences out there. You can do this. You may not get particularly rich, but why do you care about getting rich? Getting rich is super overrated anyway. You know what I mean by that? Anybody who actually is rich will tell you. The whole thing about getting rich is that once all of a sudden you've like come into a lot of money, the only thing that really changes in your life is you go, okay, well, I don't really have to worry about that anymore. I don't have to worry about paying my bills. Once you get past that, and then you maybe buy a couple toys, once you get past that, it all becomes really just not that important. Now you're just focusing on doing things that are fun and interesting that you want to do, that for whatever reason, because it's fun to do. That's what we do, friends. So this looks really good. I need to make some color adjustments. So I think what I will do is turn this up. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to go R key. So there, Tahoma just missed that hotkey again. R key. R key. This should be a regular brush. And did I get them all? I think I got them all. Well, I guess I do need This is actually color 0. My palette's a little boogered up compared to what most people's Tahoma palette ordering would be, so it's a little confusing. Okay, let's turn this off now. Golly, he looks good. Yes, and that's the same color as the beard. So, what I'm gonna do right now. Okay, Tahoma's a little funky with this. There's 2 ways I could do it. I could put in all the flesh tone and then just paint the eyes, or I could use with the V key with the Smart Raster paintbrush, or I could use the regular brush to draw lines in the eyes so that they block the fills operations, and then I could just fill them separately. I would say this makes more sense. So we'll do that. Okay. Nice. I guess as long as we're here, we'll do this. So I don't know, maybe some people find the whole discussion of the financial side of creating entertainment to be somewhat, crass. Like we're above all of that. I don't think so. I don't think so, friends. Let's turn this on and ask ourselves. This is like a dark brown color that I don't have. R key. Hello, R key. Hello, Tahoma. Okay, so the R key doesn't work if you are if the layer's turned off, the sampling for the palette doesn't work. That's interesting. Kind of stupid, I think, but okay. Right. There we go. So why do we have that? I must not have filled that. There we go. That explains a lot. Okay, let's keep forging ahead then. Okay, that worked. Why it's overrated. Is the release of episodes 2 and plus contingent on success? Oh, why is money overrated? Well, because people who fixate on money are always the people who don't have it. Okay, so that's not a. I mean, that's a bummer. It's kind of an uncool thing for people to be poor. And frankly, I was poor most of my life. I was in a decidedly lower middle class family growing up, and so I don't think I ever had a sense of being poor. But when I look back at it, for sure, it was a very lower middle class situation. And then for I was always working 3 jobs to put myself through college. And then when I got out of college, I would say we were really poor for about 3 years. Did you see your comment up a bit? You had a question? You asked me if this must be updates to shots for the last clip you're working on. Yeah, I answered that. That's when I jumped over to the timeline here and showed you. So the final webisode, is that the question you're talking about what I'm doing right now? So the final webisode is what I am punching up shots on. And, considering that the last webisode was only released a few days ago, less than a week, I think. If I can get this episode punched up in a week and then give myself a week for the soundtrack, 2 weeks to crank out another 5-minute. Actually, it's going to be closer to 6. Not too shabby. If you add the intro and the outro, you're talking SMPTE film sync. You're talking 8 minutes. That's probably not right. It's definitely probably between 6 and 7 somewhere. Is that what you're regarding the distributor and the package? Okay, I missed that question, man. What's the question? So I figured believable backgrounds, animation updates. Okay, if you have a distributor, I would package that along with a trailer and a pitch to other vendors you like Tubi, Pluto, or something similar. You have the content. If I had that, then easier to package it to be repurposed on multiple platforms for visibility as well. Okay, I totally get your question, and let me answer it this way. My film Clerical Errors was on Amazon Prime for I think 2 years. It was on my YouTube channel. This is not an availability problem. This is a promotion problem. Okay? So my chick flick horse movie that was being handled by Fairway Media Alliance, which is another distributor, they were handling foreign. They did a very mediocre job of getting the film out there. Bridgestone Multimedia, on the other hand, who I've worked with for 10 years, within just a few months of Healed by Grace 2 being released, it was earning more than $500 a month, and then it's ticked its way up to about $900 a month. Okay, so now BMG Bridgestone is handling Clerical Errors. I have a very strong feeling Clerical Errors is not going to earn like the chick flick horse movies, but it's going to earn at least a couple $100 a month. Okay, so we're talking about going to a couple $100 a month from zero. It never did anything on Amazon Prime. It never did anything here on YouTube. This is a promotional problem. What I really am paying them for is I'm saying that their ability to build on an existing audience that, as you know, I don't necessarily think they are amazingly great promoters. Okay, not making that case, but you got to realize about the distribution sector, most people and companies that are in film distribution, particularly, let's call it small-time film distribution. These are the companies you might approach if you made a movie and you're just trying to find a way to get it out there. Okay, those companies, a lot of them are good guys. Not all, but most of them are decent people just trying to do what they do. But by and large, most of the film distributors that you might approach, boy, there's a lot I could say about this, because what they do is typically, for one thing, they're often going to try to take money out of your royalty position, ostensibly for promotion, in a way that never delivers anything. They really capitalize. I'm trying to be careful not to malign the distribution world, because obviously there's a lot of good guys out there doing distribution. Okay, but I've kind of seen it from both sides of the tracks. And the reality is, most of them are very mediocre at promotion. Most of them really depend on capitalizing on the ignorance and the fear of independent filmmakers. If you have the wherewithal and the time and the desire to really develop yourself as a marketer and as a promoter, in the long run, you will be better off. And that's where what you're saying, Amar, is correct. I would make more money as a percentage by taking my show and putting it on all the platforms myself. The way I look at it at this point in time is I want to put my focus on creating the stuff specifically to feed that content to a middleman or a distributor who is motivated to go and try to make money with it. Think about it. They didn't have to create it. Now they've got the ability to go out there and earn with this, with something they have nothing into. It's just free money for them. So the theory is that 50% of something is way better than 100% of nothing. That's my theory at this point. All of my experience in 10 years says that that is true. 100% of zero is zero, and 50% of something is something. And it turns out with this particular distributor, the something is, respectable. It's pretty good. It's, you can argue about that, but having said that, can you have a situation, for example, let's bring this home to Salt and Light. Is it conceivable that you might have a situation where what you do is you've got the film out there, or the show, or whatever it is, for a couple years, it's being handled by a distributor, it's doing okay, and then at the same time, what happens is I'm starting to maybe get some street cred. I'm that weird guy that for whatever freaky reason is actually able to create a cartoon all by himself, and it's actually pretty good, and I actually can deliver in a reasonable time frame. Let's say that street cred thing kind of happens. Is it possible then, at some arbitrary date in the future, I would go to my distributor and say, well, we either need to sweeten the deal a bit, or else I'm going to go ahead and take my films elsewhere. And maybe even at that point, let's say theoretically, maybe I've got the ability to hire a crew, or even if it's just one person who's devoted to nothing but social media and promotion, as a full-time job. And the answer is, yeah, of course, all those things could happen. Now, we have a basic climate of goodwill between myself and my distributor where I basically feel that they are worth what I pay them to do what they do. The distributor I worked with before, who did the foreign sales for Healed by Grace 2, I completely do not feel that way about. I think those guys they're nice guys. They really are. Decent people. But in terms of delivering results, they're kind of schlockers who they did all the stuff that was easy. I mean, a classic example in that case was that I already had a sale lined up for that movie to Australia and New Zealand. And once I turned it over to these guys, they immediately made a sale to Australia and New Zealand. And I guarantee I would have made way more, at least twice as much, from that particular deal if I would have just done the deal directly with Australia and New Zealand. So, these are just kind of the things you deal with and you learn about. Okay, so his eyebrows are actually supposed to be the brown color. I think what I need to do here is do the F key, and I need to do it in freehand mode. So, when somebody makes a film, usually they're real green to the industry, and they don't really know what they've got. They just kind of hope. I literally, I tell you, I had a guy call me just like 2 weeks ago to pick my brain about distribution because he has a movie that he spent $300,000 creating, and essentially so far he's made nothing. And so he's asking me about my distributor, like, hey, are these good guys to work with? Do they pay on time? Yada yada. And I'm like, if you're looking for a distributor in the sort of family friendly genre space, then absolutely I can recommend these guys. That's what I told him. And then I actually went to bat for him on social media and tried to draw attention to his project because the movie looks really good. Like, they did a great job creating this thing. It looks like a funny, a neat movie, and I want to see him do well with it, Particularly because he did it for the same reason I made my movie, which was that it was an acting vehicle for his kid. His kid's, a good-looking kid, and good-looking kid, pretty good actor. So as I say, that was what the whole point of the... Darn it, I gotta hit undo. And now Tahoma's going to be stupid. Yeah, Tahoma always gets stupid with undo at the worst possible time. At the very moment when you need this one thing to undo correctly, then you're hosed. It's like super reliable for that. Now, the good news is I may be able to reload and avoid some of the stupidity. Let's try it this way. Let's go to color 0 and see if that does the trick. Normal. Yes. Okay, that worked. So we're back on track. Is this making sense? The salient point out of all of this is that 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. I would love to have a few intellectual properties pulling $900 a month. Well, yeah, I mean, welcome to the club. You know, that doesn't really mostly pay my bills. It's really my commercial media clients that pay the bills. But, you know, okay, I'm actually sitting here wondering about something. I'm wondering if, let me go back here. I am just going to erase the bulk of this here. I wonder if I could just cut and paste these lines into the, you know, the problem is they're not going to paste behind. You see what I'm arguing here? What I want to do is just marry these two. Well, I mean, I guess I've only got 2 drawings. All the rest is tweens. Well, okay, maybe there's more than 2, but yeah, so right here we've got a little flaw down here. But I could fix that on this layer. So this is a little kludgy and certainly a little time consuming because the way I'm trying to do it. But it is what it is. We'll get her going here. I think this really, really high up shoulder thing is not quite working for me. So we might as well, if we're going to use this old layer, let's go ahead and punch it up a bit. Okay, it looks like that's everything. Okay, let me go ahead and finish getting this stuff colored properly, and then I can go in and start fine-tuning the marriage of the 2 layers. Okay, yeah, you know, and I don't have a few IPs pulling 900 a month. I've one. The original chick flick horse movie is owned by someone else, and I get 10% of what they get. So I know what they're getting, and I know that that movie is earning 2 to 3 times what the sequel is, unfortunately. So they're probably earning about, I think that's right, if I remember correctly, they're probably earning $2,000 to $3,000 a month, I think, off that movie, if I remember correctly. Just a thought: is the contract exclusive once they put it out? Well, no. I mean, it typically is. Yeah. I mean, especially with a fledgling creator. Like if you go to a distributor, they're going to tell you that if they don't have the exclusive ability to exploit the picture, that they're not going to do a deal with you. They have no interest in half measures. Now, there are exceptions. I actually was an exception with Healed by Grace 2, where and you can negotiate it, of course, but what I did was I negotiated a situation where they handled it domestically and this other distributor handled the foreign. Okay, so in hindsight, for me, I would say that was a mistake, because I don't think those other guys did that great of a job on the foreign sales. But so if you have a track record and some street cred, then you're going to be able to cut a better deal. You're probably not going to get a better percentage. I mean, it used to be typically 70-30 or 60-40 in favor of the distributor. Seriously. And it's very much like the music industry. I mean, how did the rock music industry used to work? Well, I get you under a contract and you're a green musical artist, and so you're so excited because you got a record deal, right? Oh, it's so exciting. And then what we do is we loan you $100,000 to go cut your album. Okay, now that money has to be paid back. So you don't really get that money. That's not your money to spend. That's your money to spend to create the album. Okay, so that's what an advance is like in the film world. Because you're just being paid your royalties in advance is all you're doing. But it's based on the eventual earnings of the record. So in the record industry, what they would do is they do these deals, and then the band would spend all the money, create the album, and then when the album comes out, and this happened to major bands. I remember Kevin Cronin from REO Speedwagon talking about how they used to go out and tour all year long and still lose $100,000 a year. And it's because of the way the deals were structured, such that the artist is producing the album with borrowed money. And of course, the argument on the part of the record label is that, well, we want to make sure that we retain a level of quality control. We want to make sure that we're going to. And so you're going to record the album at the studios we tell you to record. So I'm taking my money and I'm giving it to you and telling you you have to spend it in this way. And by the way, where you're spending it is a studio that I actually own. So you're actually taking the $100,000 I just gave you to create the album and you're actually giving it back to me, paying to record the album, and that money that I gave you to pay me has to now be repaid to me out of your album royalties. Think about that. So what that means is that I, as the distributor, just got paid twice on all of your hard work, and you're not going to see a penny until I've gotten the full $200,000 back. Does that sound a little exploitative? Yeah, it is exploitative, because the whole idea is that these record labels would capitalize on the ignorance and desire to be successful and this and that and the other of young artists who just didn't know any better. And so to Amar's point, look, if you're willing to take the time and effort to say, you know what, I'm going to get real good at social media and at promotion and at marketing, then you should. If you're willing to give that the effort it requires, you will absolutely be better off in the long run, because you retain complete control of your career, of your intellectual property, of your movie, of your songs. You're never giving that away to somebody else on a wing and a prayer of a promise that they're going to be able to do something for you that basically boils down to promotion. It's basically a promotional function. The mechanics of, formatting your show, or in the musical case, the mechanics of getting it on iTunes or getting it on Spotify is easy. Any idiot can do that in 2 hours, okay? There's nothing special about that. That's not worth paying someone to do. With film, it's a little more complicated. I would argue that it is worth paying somebody to do that to a degree. I think what I want here is to go. I think that's what I want. Yeah. So everybody's got to make these sorts of decisions for themselves. And most people that are creatives that are just like looking for a break kind of thing usually aren't in a position in terms of emotionally, or in terms of their business experience, or in terms of their knowledge, to be in a position of power. And that's not always a bad thing. I mean, a good distribution partner serves a specific function that you may be very happy to not have to screw around with yourself. Oh, come on, really? Let's see here. We're doing areas. Oh, I see what I did. My fault. But I venture to say that most creatives, if you're gonna get any, come on, seriously, most people, if they're gonna get anywhere, probably are going to have to um, give up a piece of their potential earnings to get the rocket ship off the ground, you know. And then once the rocket ship, what you don't want to do is commit for too long. Like I'll do a 3-year deal, but I'm not going to do a 5-year deal, for example. Um, I want to have the ability to reevaluate and or potentially renegotiate after 3 years. And 3 years is reasonable because it takes 3 years to fully squeeze the sponge, and get as much as you're going to get out of something. And frankly, it really is, to a degree, if a distribution partner is a good promoter, it is a little unfair to them to have them get something out in the marketplace. And then you say, well, okay, I know it's doing well on Tubi or whatever, and so now that I know it's going to earn, now that the risk is gone, I'm going to go ahead and take it back and put it on Tubi myself, right? You can do that, and there is a time. Oh, come on. Really? I keep making the same mistake here. There's a time to do that, right? That's just a judgment everybody's got to make for themselves based on their own wherewithal and their own goals. Okay, that looks a little stupid. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay, what time is it? 12:35. How easy is getting the distributor? No, it's not. Hold on a second. Let me answer that. Is the contract exclusive? So normally a distributor is going to want exclusivity, especially if you're unknown. Of course they're going to want exclusivity because they don't want to have to be constant. Think about if it wasn't exclusive. Think about what they would then have to do. What you're telling them is, now whenever you have a pending sale, and to be fair, you could do this. I actually did this with that with Fairway Film Alliance. I told them, every time you have a pending deal with Croatia or China or some foreign country, you have to come to me and tell me what the deal is, and I approve it. Okay? Why would you do that? Now let's just follow this through for a minute. Why would a person do that? The reason you would do that is because what I'm saying is, if I don't have confidence in you as a distributor and as a promoter and as a salesman, then I'm afraid that here's what you're going to do. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the film markets this year, and you're not only going to take the first deal that comes across the table, you're going to take the first thing that anyone proposes, you'll take the deal. Why? Because you don't want to spend any effort promoting it, and you certainly don't want to spend any money promoting it. Okay, you just want to take the easy sales, and you don't even care what the offer is because you're not going to lift a finger to promote this thing anyway. All you're doing is you're taking this hapless youngster that wants to get their movie out there or whatever, and you're saying, okay, we'll go and we'll print one poster up at the film market, and then the first guy that comes along with some kind of offer will take the deal, and now we've just made that money for nothing, for basically no effort, right? So you're a little worried about that. If you're not worried about that, you're being a little naive. Okay, what do we have here? Okay, so yeah, we need to fill this in with. Okay, that's the reality, and that's exactly what you would be darn it. That's what you would be afraid of. That's what you would want not to have happen. And so that's why you would be a little more strong in your position in terms of the deal. But if you're nobody and you're basically hurting for an opportunity, then you probably, whoops, wrong color there, Jack. You probably will take that deal. Come on, really? All right, what is going on here? I've sampled this color like 12 freaking times, and it will not catch. Okay. Feeling a little saucy. Okay, so I'm trying to really put this in real world terms of what you're actually going to be thinking and what they're going to be thinking. Okay. What they're thinking is, you got this crappy little movie, you're desperate for some kind of distribution, it's like your thing about sending out 100 emails. They're sitting there going, this person they don't have any idea what they're doing. They're just stupid. So yeah, okay, we'll take your movie and we'll go and whatever, chimpy little bit of money we can get for it, we'll take it, and then we'll pay you your cut. And by the way, you don't really know, think about it for a minute here, whoops. You don't actually know if they made a sale, do you? Think about it. You don't know. You're depending on them to report to you what they've sold and report it accurately, and then pay you an accurate sum based on the deal that you have. And you have almost no ability to enforce that they actually ever do their job. Do you? And the answer is no, you don't. So you kind of better think about making sure you're dealing with somebody you can trust. Or do it yourself. You can trust yourself. That's one of the strongest cases to be made for doing it yourself. Is that the reason distributors are sometimes portrayed as kind of sharks is because, in a way, who can blame them for being sharks? There's pretty strong incentives to engage in some questionable business practices from time to time, to put it very graciously. It actually is let's take it back to the animation space. That is exactly what happened to Max Fleischer. Okay. What actually happened to Max Fleischer was he had a distribution deal, basically a package deal with Paramount, where he was doing kind of what I'm talking about, where he's producing cartoons for Paramount, and then Paramount would put them out there at the beginning of movies and whatnot in the 1930s and 40s. So the big things that Max created was Betty Boop and Popeye, stuff like that. And so then what Paramount did was Paramount saw the writing on the wall that this new thing called television, it's going to be kind of hot stuff. And so I won't elucidate all the details of it, but basically what they did was they put Fleischer in a position to basically say, hey, by the way, we're going to completely cut off our deal. We're just basically overnight shutting down your studio. We're not going to buy product from you. We quit. Unless you take all this worthless crap that you've created over the last 10 years or whatever and sign it over to us. Because it's all just worthless anyway. So, if you kind of let us have control of your stuff you created, then maybe we'll kind of keep working together. So that's what Paramount did. And so Fleischer had all of his intellectual property yanked out from under him, and he was in a very weak position to do anything about it, for the most part. And what did Paramount then do? Turned around and made zillions re-releasing Fleischer's cartoons under the name Famous Studios instead of Fleischer Studios, and all of a sudden Max Fleischer started seeing all his Popeye cartoons and everything showing up all over the place on television. Well, Paramount knew that was what they were doing. The whole point was to strong-arm Fleischer into giving up this worthless crap intellectual property that they knew was worth a lot. Now, could you maybe criticize Fleischer and say, okay, the guy was a little bit stupid and allowed himself to be taken advantage of in ways that he maybe shouldn't have? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's still not right. Okay? What Paramount did was horrible. But that's what a unethical partner may do to you. This is the problem of the entertainment industry. It's the reason why artists sign an artist makes a record deal. They're nobody. They make a deal. 2 years later, they turn into whatever the hot artist is this month. I don't know. I don't even know who's popular right now. But just pick a name, right? So this artist all of a sudden becomes really, really successful, and it's like an overnight success. Big deal, right? Is it any wonder that the artist then goes back to the record label and says, you know what, go ahead and take me to court. I don't care, because I'm canceling our deal and I'm going to go make records elsewhere, and you can sue the daylights out of me. I don't care. Because what happened there is that overnight that artist all of a sudden went from being in the weak position to being in the strong position. And they recognized that the deal they had really was not necessarily the kind of deal that would favor their best interests in light of the kind of success they had, which of course they couldn't have known in advance was going to happen, right? So this is why you get all these court cases, and the balance of power in the negotiation can change very quickly when somebody becomes successful that you didn't necessarily know was going to become successful. Hope this is making sense. I'll look at the comments here in half a second, but I'm trying to just keep rocking forward. So okay, so yeah, what you're paying the distributor for is to get it out on all the other networks and get the best deal they can for you. So like I said, it's important that you have somebody you can trust, that you do trust. And when the trust begins to fail for some reason, you probably generally want to get out of the situation as quick as possible. That's why distributors like Diamond for comic books, along with animators, creating pester. That's correct. That's right. What happened in the 90s in the comic book industry in particular with guys like Todd, forget the guy's name. You know who I'm talking about. Guys like Jim Lee. The 90s generation of comic book artists were exercised a lot more control over their careers than the 60s and 70s and even into the 80s generation of comic book artists. But all these arenas of intellectual property are the same. The internet has been quite useful because it does level the playing field in a very real sense. In that if you're willing to expend the effort to learn promotion and marketing and how to use social media, then you can certainly take much greater control of your career arc. I don't claim to be good at that, or am even making much of an effort to be good at it. Not at all. I'm focused right now more on the craft, and that's what I want to do. If I wanted to focus on promotion and marketing and social and all that, I would, but I just don't really want to. So just don't care at this point about that. I care about being good enough at telling stories in this particular arena that I'm able to create intellectual property that is undeniably entertaining and will create opportunities for myself, pretty reliably. That's what I'm trying to do. And what those opportunities will look like exactly, I don't know yet. Kind of have some ideas, but... Okay, so file, save all. Yeah, Todd McFarlane, correct, exactly. How easy is getting a distributor? It's easy as pie. You just contact them, right? If you look up into, I'll tell you this, if you want to, the shortest path to that But put it this way. Don't make the mistake. If accessing the marketplace, in other words, getting your stuff out there, seems mysterious to you or intimidating at this point in time, do not let that fool you. If then you find out that, well, actually, it's not that difficult, and I'm telling you it's not that difficult, don't let that encourage you that that somehow means it's going to be easier to get your stuff out there. Because it turns out it was always easy. It is easy, it was easy, it's always going to be easy. For the simple reason that distributors want context, so content. So that's the easy part. If you want to know the shortest path to accomplishing that, just suffer the expense of signing up for IMDb Pro and then just do a search on independent distributors and you'll find all their contact information there. If you call them up and say, hey, I'm an independent producer and I got this cartoon I produced, you want to have a look? They're going to say, oh, sure, we'll take a look. Why wouldn't they? You might be the diamond in the rough that's going to make them $1 million. You know, and believe me, they're on the lookout for that all the time. So getting to the marketplace is the easy part. What's the hard part? Creating good stuff. Creating, you know, a show or content that people are going to grab onto and enjoy. You know, learning how to tell stories. That's what's hard. Okay, so for this tween, I'm actually going to have to make a duplicate here. And then methinks what I will do is actually just stretch this stuff around. And go like that. And see if I can... Oh, come on, Tahoma. There's a freaking thing here. I get a little testy when the selection tool lets go of the selection, which it does like all the time. Okay, that's definitely not going to work. Undo. The simpler solution is to just sample this color and then paint it by hand. Sorry about my stupid attack. I should have seen that a moment ago. And somehow it escaped me. Just do it this way. So yeah, finding distribution is easy. You know, it baffled me actually to see how I see young people talking about. They think that the path, you know, usually these are filmmakers, okay, but they think the path is to create a short film and then go put it in film festivals, and somehow that's going to get the attention of distributors that are going to go. They're going to be so impressed with my, you know, my storytelling ability or whatever, that all of a sudden it's going to open doors of opportunity. Yes, that does happen about once every 20, 30 years. Every once in a great while that does in fact happen, but that's like basically functionally it never happens. It's not. No, that's not what you do. That's stupid. Why? Simple. If your marketplace, in fact, actually, if you were going to pursue that path, the thing to do is just create a YouTube short. Just do it on YouTube. Don't bother with, you know, anything else, because the only place in the real world where there is a market for short form content is on YouTube, basically, or TikTok, right? So if that's what you want to do is create short form content, then create short form content. But most of the media world is not looking for short form content. They're looking for shows and movies. Or if you really like short form content, then go create commercials. You make a lot more money producing commercials than you'll ever make, you know, maybe doing anything else, at least on a cost per minute or finished production, basis. Um, it's never been my cup of tea. I haven't done much TV commercial production just because it's, as I say, it's not my cup of tea. It's not really what's particularly interesting to me. Okay, so what do we have here? This is turned off. Okay, so that's the general cast shadow. This it's like looking for approvals from your peers to say that you're a great filmmaker. Pretty much. Pretty much. Every once in a while somebody has something really good. Put it this way. Every once in a while somebody has something really good that grabs and evolves successfully out of that path, doing festivals and things like that. My argument would be this. If you have the product that is going to become successful that way, then it would have become successful anyway, whether you did the festival thing or not. So, I mean, I've done film festivals, but mostly just because, it's like fun to do or whatever, it's not like you don't really expect. And it does give you, you can cite an award that you won, So I guess that's something. But I don't know. For me, I would say YouTube's actually a great platform because it's so democratic, So that doesn't bode well for Salt and Light, since obviously it's not actually particularly popular here on YouTube. I don't care about that though, because I'm on a little bit different path, a little bit different purpose. So you're saying young filmmakers shouldn't do film festivals. What should they do instead? Well, it depends on what you've created. If you've created a short, then maybe you should do the festivals, because there is no other. I mean, other than YouTube, there's really no platform, for anyone to look at what you're doing, right? So, usually my advice to young filmmakers is to create something that is consistent with what people are buying and watching. That's all. So what do we need here? I need the S key. Does that make sense? So the reason I'm creating a series is because what do people watch? Oh, series. That's what people watch. So I'm creating what people watch. So whether my series will be successful remains to be seen, of course. But if I create something that's a short form thing and then it goes hog wild on YouTube, then that can be useful because you're building your audience, and then when you do something that maybe fits somewhere else in the marketplace, you might have a larger audience that's just taking paying attention to what you're doing, right out of the gate. So it does help. It's not that it doesn't help. It can. Oh boy, I don't want to do that. I need to go S key, just grab this stuff. So, other people may have a different opinion too, so don't just take everything I'm saying as gospel. I mean, I know a successful filmmaker up in Michigan who has made a bunch of movies, and his movies are, I think, pretty much in the $150,000 budget zone. And not that long ago, he actually took almost his entire library and put it in the hands of my film distributor, because he had heard good things about him. I don't remember if he heard any of that from me, because I don't remember if he talked to me. I think he did, actually. But anyway, long story short is that, you know, for the most part, I don't really have to worry about my material getting into the marketplace, for one thing, and you know that they're going to report quarterly revenues in a timely manner and accurately, you know, things like that. These guys have a very, very, very good reputation that they've earned over many years. And a lot of distributors can't really say that. So let the creator beware. Oh, I guess I missed this one, didn't I? Let the creator beware. Boom. Boom. This is a bit of work, isn't it? It's a bit of work. That's alright. This one is actually almost sort of okay-ish. Almost, but not quite. So, young filmmakers... Well, actually, if I was going to advise a young filmmaker, I would encourage a young filmmaker to not create movies, but rather to create, you know, either a sitcom or a drama. But basically, at this point in history, I would always recommend a young creator to learn to crank out serial content, you know, a series type of thing, because that's really what people want to watch. It's really what the platforms want to buy. And there's still a place, of course, for full-length, you know, 90 to 110-minute movie, of course. But the other thing I always encourage young people to do is to write. Anybody who develops himself as a writer and has as much broad-based knowledge of all aspects of both the production and, you know, educate yourself as much as possible about how things work, how things are done, so that if you so that you can be as self-sufficient as possible. I think that's usually almost always good advice for anyone, so that you can retain control of your career. Because if you're the one who's got the talent, you know, if you're that magical person, you want to okay, I gotta look at this here. Okay, all this stuff on this side can be duplicated. Control C, Control V. This stuff over yonder, methinks, we will redo. So I hope that answers your question. I always favor an emphasis on creating good stuff, because if the stuff you're creating is good, it'll you know, you will not have that much difficulty finding an opportunity. Now, that doesn't mean you'll necessarily make a great deal. Great deal meaning, cut a good deal or whatever. Maybe you will and maybe you won't. But, S key. That's kind of up to you to be careful. I don't really see many TV series made by indie creators. I mostly see movies. Well, based on what? That's a pretty bold statement. Well, okay. If I named a show that's on let's pick on one of these shows that I was picking on last week, like what is it? What is the something brothers, the drug thing, or Vox Machina? Those are a couple ones I've been picking on lately a little bit. What do you know about the story about how those shows came together? What do you mean by independent? I would probably just out of the gate completely disagree with your statement, because I would say that most creators are in fact independent. And what I mean by that is, now once you have some street cred, and if you make a deal with Amazon or something, yeah, okay, maybe they're gonna give you a budget, right? Whoops, darn it. Let me sum it up this way. The danger that you have as an independent creator is this, is that the excuse you will make for yourself for why what you are creating sucks, to varying degrees. It might suck a lot, or it might only suck a little bit. It might actually be okay. But the story you're going to tell yourself is that the reason I couldn't make a great show is because nobody gave me the money to do it. And when you say that to yourself, you are absolutely 100% lying to yourself and making excuses. The reason you can't create a great show is because you don't know how to create a great show. And money helps in some ways, but basically is pretty much never the solution. Remember, the films I made, every single one of them was made for a total out-of-pocket cost of $8,000. And that was only because I paid the actors. 100% of the money went to the actors. 100%. Now, did I have a little bit of expense here and there into like buying a camera? Yeah, but the cameras I used you can buy on eBay for $200 all day long. And besides, we know that there's plenty of cases of people that are shooting stuff nowadays that looks great that was shot on an iPhone. So it's not a technology barrier. It's not a cost of entry barrier. It's usually just a sucking barrier, actually. Turns out that's usually the problem, is you're just not that good at what you think you're trying to do. I'm not talking to you personally, Max, or anybody else here, actually. Of course it's a lot of competition. Have you ever explored the concrete business, or the rivets business, or the baked beans business? How many websites get created every year? 10 billion? Gee, that's competitive. So, the wisdom I offer today is, number one, a budget being a barrier to entry is always a lie you tell yourself. By the same token, the competition being stiff and difficult and heavy, tough competition, that's also a lie. That's a story you tell yourself. I have never. I mean, it's just, I don't even know how to explain this. Like, I wish I could, like, put you guys all under a hypnotic spell and guarantee that you believe me when I tell you this. I don't care what you're selling. If you're pitching your show to distributors, whatever, I don't care. There's a rule in sales. I've told you guys this before, but I call it the law of 100, which means I could be selling refrigerators to Eskimos. It doesn't matter. With the caveat that you probably shouldn't be trying to sell something that's completely stupid. Okay. But basically, if you just start trying, you'll find your customers. You just will. They're out there. Let's be esoteric about it. The world is in balance. The person that buys your product from you, they can't do what you do. You can't do what they do. They need you. You need them. That's the way the world works. Competition's not a problem. Think about it. The entertainment space is only growing. What does it matter if 500 movies get made per year if, with all the platforms that are starting streaming in the last 5 years, the appetite for content is 1,000 times the size that it was 20 years ago. 1,000 times. So then you say, oh, but there's 10 times as many movies being made for 1,000 times the appetite for content. Do the math. The problem isn't the competition. Because why? The pie is growing. The total pie is much, 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 much bigger. It's never been bigger. There's never been a better time to be an independent creator. Now, is there a catch to that? Yes. The catch is that on a per unit of creative output basis, I suspect that the general dollar figures one will earn are probably smaller than they used to be. That is true. Okay, I've got a tween here that seems to be missing all kinds of stuff. So I just can't emphasize enough that all the things that we bring up here in these chats that essentially become, the reasons we're giving for whatever it is we think we're trying to achieve being difficult are all just BS. They're all just stories you're telling yourself. It's all crap. And that's because it gets back to what I've said over and over about possibility and permission. The only reason people think of it that way is because deep down inside, they don't really, they want somebody to pat them on the back, and it's understandable, and tell them it's going to be okay, you can do this. Okay. I'm patting you on the back and I'm telling you it's going to be okay, you can do this. Seriously. Officially. Right now, I'm telling you that. Now, once someone has told you that, think about the position that places you in. Now you can't blame your software. You can't blame the crappy software. You can't blame the competition. You can't blame the fact that the opportunities don't exist. All of a sudden, you're out of excuses, aren't you? You have no excuses now. Now it's all down to you. Are you creating crap, or are you creating something that people actually want to watch? If you're creating crap, that's on you, isn't it? So what we do when we're in a weak position as creative people is we constantly tell these stories. We come on these chats and we talk like we know what we're talking about, right? We have absolutely no clue. We talk like we know what we're talking about, and then we have all these, there's people out here who also don't know, and so they're impressed with me, right? Because I kind of sound like I know what I'm talking about, even though I haven't done it. I don't really know anything, but I kind of act like I do because I've done a little research. It's stupid. And then when you do that, you're doing harm because there's people around here that are maybe younger that actually think you know what they're talking about. They're taking your advice and you don't have a clue. Okay? Not talking to anybody here in particular. I'm saying that this is what happens. Well, why would you get sucked into that? The last thing you actually want to find out as a creative person is that there are no excuses. That's actually the last thing you want to find out. Turns out it was all just up to you. Turns out if you fail, it's actually your fault. It's because you suck. It isn't because there's too much competition. Well, you don't want to know that if you're lazy, or if you're not actually that motivated, or if you're actually, I don't even want to say not talented, because I think anybody that disciplines themselves can develop the skill. Most of what's created in the media space is, by definition, mediocre. Think about it. Of those 500 movies you cited that get, or 500 movies that get created each year, most of them aren't that great. They're not that memorable. But yet there's still lots of people, thousands and thousands of people, that still make a career cranking that stuff out. So there's plenty of opportunity to be had. You don't have to be the big bad, you don't have to be, Attack on Titan. Which I don't really like anyway, but. So anyway, I'm looking at the comments here because it looks like there's something going on here with JB. Working on collaborative with some other emerging animators, writers here in Wales. Awesome. Thanks for visiting from Wales, Jay Bishop. We've done a few sessions now. I have a good following. Just had a pilot with BBC. That's awesome, dude. Produced a series of episodes that are around 20 minutes each, around 6 a season. The Veil. I'll check it out too. That's awesome, dude. I'm actually super glad you're here because it's nice to hear from somebody who is not just talking theory, but is actually engaging with the industry in a real way, where you have a sense of what the challenges are and what the requirements are. I love having guys like you around who can really speak from experience, not just BSing about what they think they know. Simplistic, rough style. Yeah, the main writer and creator started off doing it himself in Photoshop, right on. But he's a talented writer, voice actor, he just churns stuff out. Excellent. Dude, I hope you subscribe. I really appreciate having guys like you around that are out there really doing it. I've done it too, but I've done it in the live action film space, not the animation space. So animation is just something I'm developing. I understand how distribution works, though. That's for damn sure. So when I try to encourage you guys, sometimes it's a little bit of, kind of tough love kind of thing to say, to really help you guys realize that they're really, the marketplace is not going to give you any excuses. The marketplace is either entertained by what you're doing or it's not. And if it's not, and partly that means consumers, but it also partly means the distributions, the platforms, the middlemen. Because if they're impressed with what you're doing, they may buy it in order to go ahead and sell it to the consumers. That is actually my preference. I don't like dealing with consumers. Why have I not grown my YouTube channel? I'm not really interested in catering to consumers, other than the product that I'm creating, I hope ultimately appeals to them. But my customer, this is an important distinction, very important distinction, is to me, I don't think of consumers as being my customer. I think of the network or the platform that I'm feeding content to is my customer. That's who I'm trying to please. I'm trying to give them something with which they can make money. Because if they make money, I make money. That's really how it works. So, hey, Dead Pianist. Yeah, I'm going to look at this thing, this veil. Okay. I love it. That's cool, man. I'll have to. Is it? Where? Let me see. I'm looking here to see where we can watch this. 20 minutes each, 6 a season. So I mean, your output is, order of magnitude beyond most of the people that ever come around my channel. So I'm very, very impressed. Let me look. So I'm assuming I can find something here on YouTube, right? The Veil. Yep, there we go. I'll just subscribe to the Veil channel right now, and then I'll look at it a little bit later. But no, it's great. That's awesome, man. We're all on the same team at the end of the day, aren't we? Okay, let's see what we got here on Asher. I think I'm probably ready to render this darn thing. Even though his... Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hit the A key and just make a little adjustment here. Control C. I guess we want to go Control V, and then we'll move this up here, and now we can adjust that back to there. And now we want to copy that sucker to the clipboard. Control V. Adjustment. So I'm just basically tracking to keep the mouth where it's supposed to be for this shot. Okay. And Control Shift R. I think we can render this out and see where it sits in the mix, as we say. So max power shows you can be successful. That well, and by the way, Jay Bishop, thank you for that. You've contributed tremendously to the conversation here today just by showing up, because when I haven't looked at the show that you're doing, but I guarantee, I think I'm safe in guessing that it's probably on the simpler side in terms of a production. And so if you're getting something out there, it's kind of like South Park idea. It's the idea that when people see it and they go, oh, well, I could do that, it's kind of probably a pretty typical reaction. Now, the truth is maybe they couldn't, right? But if they think they could, then they might go ahead and try and make an effort, and then over time they might actually get to the place where they can, crank it out. So where am I at? I'm trying to look for, I guess this is the shot I was just working on. Why are his shadows out of whack there? Really? Oh, I know what's going on. How embarrassing. At least I think I know what's going on. Yes. These are all on. I better turn this on. Oh. Friends, we might have some wackiness in the compositing department. Oh dear. Okay, so we've got the, well, it doesn't look like it. We've got the shadows multiplied. And yeah, this is a bit odd, friends. A bit odd. Shows you can be successful without needing to be the best animator or artist. That's Max pretty much said what I was trying to say. Tiny Salad, yeah, as long as you have at least one or two great aspects, you can probably succeed. I agree. I agree. That is true. In this whole big scheme of things, with what I'm trying to do with Salt and Light in particular, is I don't think I'm particularly great at any of it. Sorry, but really. So column 4 is multiplied by column 2. I see what the problem is. That is the problem. So we just need to go like this. Ta-da. Oh, it's like one of those stupid little internet puzzles you see. Once the answer emerges, it's like, oh, duh. Okay, so my stuff's not so simplistic, but I love the storytelling and humor of the video. I became an early fan of the show, and when Adam, the creator, asked for help, I was straight on it. Awesome, man. Awesome. I will definitely check it out when I get off the live stream and quit working, which, by the way, is going to be like, oh my gosh, I've been going for 3 hours and 20 minutes. Holy crap. Dude. That's a lot of live streaming. A little bit there with the There's something wrong in the ordering of the shadows too, actually. So, well, this is what you get when you're taking a old shot and trying to fix it up. You don't always remember everything you did. So, here we've got let me look at that again. That was column 3. Yeah, because it's got to be masked. But then these shadows. Oh, I see what I did wrong. I'll tell you what, actually my brain's getting tired. I think I'm going to take that, turn that off, and give myself a break. I think I'm going to take a break and then look at the, because it looks like I'm going to maybe have to do some clever ordering of the layers in the compositing mode to both clamp them to the color and also to get them to stack properly, and my brain's getting a little bit fried. So, with that, my friends, what's the difference between Tahoma and OpenTunes? Kyle Kitty. It is. Tahoma is a fork of OpenTunes, which means that they're almost exactly the same program, but they run on two different development paths where the developers do kind of keep an eye on each other in terms of what they're doing. So yeah, the main differences for me that cause me to use Tahoma are that I can cut and paste across the clipboard from other programs like Krita into Tahoma. And then if you're into stop motion, the stop motion thing I think is unique to Tahoma as well, where I've never used it, got no reason to, but there it is. So, anywho, all right, that's it, guys. I quit. It's been a good session. Hope it's helpful, and I will be back. As you know, there will be